Are you serious, guys? Welcome to another great broadcast. And I tell you what, it's getting crazy out there, isn't it? I mean, you start talking about the markets, you start looking at the geopolitical world that's going on, the Afghanistan debacle, and then, and then Gavin Newsom's going to stay. So what does that mean? And the fighting that's going on in Washington. How does all of this affect the markets, and what can you do to capitalize on it? And with China and everything else. So let's bring in the man, the legend, the expert of all, Bob Kudla from TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Paul. How you doing? I love your shirt.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I'd brighten my day up here in sunny San Diego, even though this is a Hawaiian shirt.
Well, you're close to heaven.
I'm almost there. It was a beautiful day yesterday, 73 degrees. Perfect all day, even into the evening. It's like, this is paradise. No wonder you're down here. No wonder you love this area.
Yeah. You can't beat it. 10 degrees winter to summer, 10 degrees night to day.
That's awesome. Well, it's not all that awesome in Washington right now. We don't know who's coming and going. There's been a disaster with Afghanistan. Kamala Harris seems to be absent. And Biden sometimes is absent, even though he's there. I mean, this is really a mess, isn't it? And the market seems to be stable through all this.
So look, all the market cares about is how much money the Federal Reserve is gonna pump into it. But the Afghanistan debacle probably would have went off the front page, except that they got those 12 Marines and that one Navy corpsman killed. And he committed an unforgivable act. It just shows the callousness of these people. Secretary Blinken was on vacation. Biden's on a permanent Adderall vacation. And, he's just not there. And so you have probably Susan Rice really running things in the background. Remember, Susan Rice and Secretary Blinken they're the architects of Benghazi. People don't realize that. We have the same crowd there. So you just tie everything in with Susan Rice. You got Afghanistan, you got Iran, and you got Libya. And their fingerprints are all over it. And so it's really bizarre. And I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing that the deep state is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's real. And if you needed any more proof of that, all you have to do is read the excerpts from yesterday's book out on General Milley. And that I don't know how many laws the guy violated. I mean, people don't realize that the general of the Joint Chiefs, he has no operational command authority.
Nope.
Those people are there simply to advise the president. And he walked in saying, I'm in charge of basically the country's military. That's a coup. I don't know.
Coup.
It's so funny. Everything they projected upon Trump, they're doing.
Yeah.
And so everything's out in the open now. We're just gonna have to wait for elections to see how angry people are. And I think the reason why people aren't really, really angry, I think people are seething inside. Except now we're getting to the point where they want to impose. I have to be careful with the words we use. They want to impose certain restrictions upon people now.
Right.
And now people are reacting to that. And you're starting to see people speak out that you never spoke out. I was talking to my subscribers this morning, and I said, Alex Berenson, Rose McGowan, Nicki Minaj, these are people that you would see comfortably on the left. Well, I think they're all being red-pilled right now. They may still have their left social leanings, but I think they're realizing that what they've been supporting has been fascism. And I think they really feel like they've been played. Because look how they react. If you don't toe the line, we'll destroy you, even though you're
on our side
to support them. And the reason why I bring this stuff up, all this stuff affects the stock market. We've not hit a new high in SPY since Biden killed those Marines. And let's be clear, he killed them. He put them. It's negligent homicide is what those guys pull. Negligent homicide. I don't know how else you can frame it. These people and the people they dropped in there, some of these people were just coming basically
out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, there was no combat experience with these people at all. And so they were probably clueless. I guarantee you, if they dropped in Marines that were in Afghanistan for 2 or 3 tours, they would have never let people that close to them. You know, these other people were just new and they didn't know, and they weren't vetting these people. It was a disaster. And just for your listeners, you know, I am a former Marine Corps officer, so you know, this stuff just makes me want to pull my hair out. And so I don't look. He lost. I think people will never forgive Biden for this. You saw what's happening with the stadiums, right? People chanting expletives.
Yes, they are.
Nobody's ever done that before.
No.
And the reason being is that they feel there's no other way in which they can communicate with him because they're censoring everybody to try to give him a bubble.
Right.
So the market sees these things, and you know, we always joke about, because you know, both of us are Christians, both of us love prophecy. You know, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? Well, we have 4 horsemen of economic disaster potentially in front of us, right? Food prices are not going down anytime soon. In fact, if you listen to the Kroger CEO, he said expect increasing prices into the future. Okay, we're having an issue out here in California with water, and you know, the Central Valley. Well, food prices are going to go through the roof from there. They're killing all the livestock because they don't have enough grain for them and grass for them in certain parts of the country. And then China can't feed their people, and they're importing everything they can. And Brazil is having problems. So there's food. That's a food issue. Set that one over. And then you have energy. You know, we're making most of our money right now in Trade Genius on the energy side. So uranium's in a massive shortage. It's gone up 50%, the uranium miners in 1 month. We caught that entire move. You know, you and I have been doing this I was just telling people, 6 years we've been doing this interview together. I can't believe it.
How fast is that? I mean,
you were barely shaving then. And
I know. I can't. Now I'm a grandfather.
And so, you know, I've been begging people, and even on this show, get into uranium, and then pop. It's still going to double again. It's still not high enough. It's still not high enough, Paul, to cover mining costs. So uranium's going to keep going up. So listeners, get into uranium. Talk to your advisors if you don't use a service like mine to help you. But you need to get into uranium. And then look, oil today just through the roof. Natural gas in Europe. If you're European listeners, I'm praying for you. You know, the Russians are turning the tap off. You know, Orange Man bad, right? He wanted to make sure there was natural gas coming into Europe as competition to Russia. They stiff-armed Trump. They went into bed. Remember Biden gave approval for the Nord Stream? That's another big Biden scoot up.
That's another one, yes.
Like, you know what, turn the tap down a little bit. Let's get that natural gas up. Germany can't even fill their strategic reserves of natural gas going into winter. China just stiff-armed Germany. Wouldn't let one of their ships dock in the harbor. You know, Germany provides China with all high-tech machinery. So there's something at play here with that. Okay, so that's energy, and energy costs aren't going down. Look, you can't go to work. I'm lucky I work out of my house. Okay, right. I live in an area where I don't have to turn the air conditioner on. Right. I don't have to turn the heat on. But that's not most of America. That's not most of the world. And that's a big problem. Then rent. Well, there's one area that California exceeds in. Rent are through the roof. You know, you can't even afford to live out here. You know, there's, 2-bedroom condos are going for $3,500 a month.
That's crazy.
That's almost as much as the average American makes.
Right.
You know, and in a year, if you multiply that out. And so rents are squeezing people. And then the last thing is healthcare. You know, not only are we getting issued with the costs just keep rising, but now they may deny you care depending on if you're on the right side of the political spectrum, right?
So where does that start, Bob? Because look, that's sort of like saying, let's say there's a drunk driver on the road and he crashes and he even hurts 3 people, but he's injured. Well, and he's totally inebriated. There's no question. He still gets to be brought to the emergency room and he gets treated and they try to save his life.
Right.
But all of a sudden, it depends which side of the aisle you are on the pandemic. You can be denied health care. This is draconian. I don't even know if this is draconian. I don't know what this is. Tyranny.
Well, yeah. So I just tell people, look, if you ever get denied care, just walk into the emergency room and say, I don't have insurance, and I'm illegal.
Then you'll get care.
And you'll get care. And then, cause then they can't ask you any more questions because they get to bypass all the rules. So, but my point in this diatribe is that these things will weigh in. The United States has a very interesting economic model. Most of our employees are in what's called service jobs that aren't essential. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that, it's, essential like grocery stores or something. I'm talking about, if push came to shove, you don't need that product or service.
Right.
And so you're going to see what's happening here is you're going to see prices going up on the things that you need and prices going down on the things that you can't now afford. And it's pretty funny. I'm raising my hand and my iPad just told me you're about to raise your hand. They know everything about me now, Paul.
Wait a minute, how can you know you're about to raise your hand? I mean, that's mind. They're reading your mind, Bob.
Oh my gosh, you're scaring me. But what it's going to do to the markets is that that a lot right now we can't find enough workers. Well, in about 6 to 9 months, they will go from a worker shortage to companies will be laying people off because the price of food keeps going up like this, and people are tapped out on credit. So they can't get access to credit. They cut off all the emergency aid for the pandemic. Is that this pandemic thing's going to end? We're going to walk right into what I call the inflationary depression model. Is that you'll see it's basically stagflation for people that are under 50. And where you have higher prices that are persistent and low productivity, so you'll have higher unemployment and higher prices. And you get this thing called the misery index. Yeah, it'll start going up again.
Didn't we have that under the Carter administration?
Yeah. See, what Biden and Carter is scary. Is scary how similar things are playing out. If you indulge me a little history lesson, in the 60s we had the Nifty 50. Okay, we had the Vietnam War running while Johnson was trying to basically it was a guns and butter debate. They said, "Screw it, we're going to do guns and butter." Well, by the 70s. That thing started to get wonky, right? They bailed out. Look at it. We bailed out of Vietnam like we're bailing out of Afghanistan. The same way. We just basically, that's it. We have enough, cut and run, and we left in basically in surrender mode. Same thing with Afghanistan. We have a feckless president, and we had a feckless president then with Carter. The only difference is with Carter is Carter was well loved personally. Biden doesn't have. People don't love Biden. And but they love Jimmy Carter.
Okay, I won't say it, but I know you got 80 million votes, but let's not go there, okay? Let's just not go there.
Yeah, so you have that, and then now you have inflation coming, food and energy costs. I remember you and I both grew up in the 70s. We were teenagers, and I remember my high school was 3 miles away from my house, and I played sports. And if I didn't have a friend that could take me home, or at least get me partially home, after 2.5 hour workouts, I had to hump home. Yep. And I didn't live in the best of areas, between my high school and my home. It was interesting. So I basically ran and walked to make sure I got there. And because my parents, we had one car and my dad needed the gas for work. Because it went up 400%. Well, guess what it's doing now? Oil will be over $100, Paul. So our prediction, $120, $130 a barrel will show up because another Biden failure of basically not allowing us to drill here. So we have natural gas shortage, we have oil shortage, we have pipeline capacity shortages. And look, I think these guys think they were too smart by half. If we restrict this, we make prices rise enough, we could force people into the Green New Deal kind of lifestyle. But Saudi Arabia said, "Oh, hey, the United States is out of the picture." Russia's like, "Hey, they're out of the picture. Let's jam them." Yep. And now they're jamming them, and so we'll see oil go through the roof. And once food and oil go, the Federal Reserve is trapped, Paul. They can't keep lowering interest costs because it makes inflation even higher. The government can't keep spending at the rate it does because it makes inflation higher. It gets to the point where we become third world. In a sense that the more money the government tries to solve, it's like throwing magnesium into water. If anybody ever done that chemistry experiment, you throw magnesium into water, where you throw lithium in the water. Just remember a Tesla, right? If Tesla catches on fire, okay, I think it takes 80,000 gallons of water to smother it, because you have to get the heat down, because it's hygroscopic. It feeds off water. And so that's what's going to happen here. They're going to try to solve the problem the way governments only know how to. They're going to keep trying to push more money in, and we're going to become Argentina-like, in approach. Now, since we're reserve currency, it won't be as bad as it's going to be in other countries. So all these things are coming up to just increasing volatility. And so what the Fed has been doing has been good, but then it's stopped. And the Fed's already recognizing this, and they're talking taper. And I think the real big clue, those guys outed themselves on trading in the stock market to the Fed governors. Remember that? Yeah. So we have to sell now so we could be in. So instead of them getting caught later saying they sold at the top, they said, well, we had to because of, moral issues, and so these guys are out. So to me, remember when Obama said it's good to be in the stock market, you would have bought, right? You would have made 400% over 4 years. Well, the Federal Reserve just told you we're selling. If people aren't paying attention to that, I don't know what else I can tell you.
So it is sort of like the four horsemen of the apocalypse economically. It's everything wrong. It's every bad move you could make is being made, and it's affecting it. Eventually, it's a nightmare. It's a perfect storm, isn't it? Where, for instance, the unemployment benefits just ran out for like 3.5 million Americans. Yet every restaurant, every factory, every place you look, begging for somebody to come to work. But they're not all coming back to work. It's we're in a catch-22. The value of the dollar is shrinking. It's shrinkflation, isn't it? It's shrinkflation. I don't know what you call that.
That's right.
But it's a disaster. So, folks, this is Bob Kudla, TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Go to his website right now to TradeGeniusAcademy.com. If you're saying, okay, if it's such a mess, then why in the world do I want to participate at all? Because at the time of a mess is the greatest opportunities. If you know where things are going to go, and it's pretty clear, this is the time to capitalize on it. And that's what you do, Bob. You teach people, you give them the tools on how they can capitalize on the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, and look, you and I are talking a little gloom and doom here, but being forewarned is being forearmed. And Jesus said, hey, have the lamp on your feet. You don't know where you're going. So you better not just sit back and be on the roof when the floodwaters are coming up, hoping the helicopter come get you.
Right.
So you have to be prepared. And until such time where you can't be in the stock market or trade, look, you can stay ahead of this stuff. So look, there's going to be stocks that you're going to be able to sell against, and there's going to be stocks that you need to own. And they're going to be really clear. The market, people think the market's a mystery. The market's very much an open book. They tell you where to go. You just have to listen. And a lot of times people don't listen because they want to, they know more than the market. And so what we've done, we've created these algorithms that basically, they check us. I did it because I wanted the market to tell me where to go long or where to go short. If I did it on my own accord, sometimes your own biases get in the way. And so you need to let the market tell you. And that's what we've done. And the other thing, too, I think it's really important for people to know what we do is that we actually give you access to these indicators. And so that you could trade things. There's so many stocks out there, and we don't trade them all. And so, we have watch lists that we look at. And then we teach you how to do this at the same time. Part of the service, you get the free training that's part of how the system works. So like 22 classes, 3-4 minutes long each, get you up to speed. And then I put trades out every day. And so I shot you over some attaboys. You take a look at those. All of those, I sent you a bunch of all of those from the last 3 or 4 days, just to show people how much money people were making. And a lot of these people are fairly new traders that I think it shocks them in terms of of how well they can do if they just follow a really basic system. And we're not trading anything crazy. The things that we're buying and selling they're household names, but we show people how you can do it and be effective. So
even the household names have ups and downs, and if you know the indicators why something's about to go up, you can buy then and then sell in a few days, and there's where the opportunities are.
Yeah, if you just saw me glance over a second, I was just watching a stock right now that we in Texas Instruments. Everybody knows Texas Instruments.
Yeah.
And so there's a chip shortage out there.
Yep.
And that's not ending anytime soon. So we had a buy signal on it yesterday. It's making people money, and so those are the kind of trades that we look at. And people like cryptocurrency but don't want to be in cryptocurrencies. There are what's called miners out there that trade on the stock market. So we're always putting trades out on that. We're in one right now that we put in yesterday at 3% today. So we find these trades, and we're in these trades 3 or 4 days. You make it 2, 3, 4%. Well, guess what? If you make 3% a week in the stock market, Paul, you're making 150% a year.
That's
okay.
So you cannot make anywhere else.
Yeah. So you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to YOLO it. That's my new phrase. You only live once kind of trade. You don't have to be those crazy people. You just find good stocks and you catch them on their down cycle as they're ready to make the next move. Because trading is like a sine wave. So there's always a tension between buyers and sellers. So if it gets too far away from the center, you have traders that'll push it up. Well, all we do is look for those opportunities. So
wow.
Yeah, and so I don't see what we're doing. I don't think it changes, Paul. Between now and the midterm elections, I think you're going to see increasing tension because Joe Manchin and Samina, they're not giving up their power. Okay,
Nope.
So there's no way Joe Manchin is going to give up the filibuster stuff, right?
Nope.
Because once he does that, he's irrelevant. They'll never give him another dime in West Virginia.
No.
I mean, and he knows how the Democrats operate because he is one. They're very vengeful people, and so in Samina, Samina and the new senator from Arizona, they got in under the skin of their teeth under probably some contentious approaches, and in Georgia, look, Herschel Walker is going to win that election.
He is going to win
in the fall. There's no way he's going to lose that election.
No.
And so there's going to be a lot of tension in the midterms. And a lot of people in the House of Representatives, there's like 30, 35 people that in states and districts that Trump carried, okay, that people that have been kind of, not really interested. Well, they're very interested now, because, freedoms are being discussed. And look, if they get this thing through on the vaccine side, what's going to prevent them to say, you know what, hey, climate change is an emergency because the Supreme Court said we could do things with emergencies. And, guess what? You know what? We have too many people, so we're going to do mass sterilization. Sorry, you don't agree with that, but that's what we're going to do. Or, you know what? There's too many fat people, and you can't eat red meat. We think that's bad for the environment. PETA says that's an emergency. So everything's going to be an emergency. So if the Supreme Court votes wrongly as all this stuff gets up there, the politicians are going to declare everything an emergency.
Yeah.
And it basically just sidestep the whole process. So that's what's at stake in the next election. I think a lot of people now, there was the woke people and now there's the awakened people. So it's going to be really, really fascinating to watch. And you can't buy people off anymore, Paul, from the things I talked to you about before. So you buy people off and prices go even higher. So interesting times. For me, I'm indifferent in the sense that I'll trade through it. As a person, it's abhorrent to me in many levels. And as a Christian, I'm just simply praying and look for God's protection because I don't know where these crazies have out crazied even my wildest dreams. So
it really is. And I think that China and Russia really sense our weakening. And for instance, you had 4 Chinese warships just off 46 miles off the coast of Alaska. And that was just released by our military. We know that the Russian subs are hanging around everywhere, around the Gulf of Mexico to, Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. They're everywhere. So they're pushing, they're shoving. Taiwan feels very threatened. Singapore now feels very threatened. Japan. So in the Pacific, you have, and now, as you said earlier today, look at the putting the squeeze with the oil on Europe, on Germany, and all the rest of the European nations there. Where are they going to get their oil? They're being cut off at the knees, and we're at the same time shutting down the Keystone Pipeline, not finishing the wall on the southern border. You can't make this many blunders, okay? Some of this stuff is just by design. It has to be. And
yeah. I totally agree. We used to say these people are so stupid. No, they're not stupid. They're nefarious,
right?
But my favorite slogan that I always see is the French aristocracy didn't see it coming either.
Wow.
And I started playing La Miserable on my PC. So, these guys have this ability to overdo it. I think if you see what's happening in Europe now, Justin Trudeau people are throwing stuff at him.
Oh, yeah, throwing
stuff.
So
if people don't realize how angry people are, and you back people into a corner where they may not be able to eat or travel or do things, people will snap.
Yes, they will. They'll push back hard.
Right. And if you kill a kid because you force them to do something, as a mom and dad, rationality goes out the door.
Yeah.
In a country with 1 billion guns and 2 billion bullets,
Yeah.
So these guys are playing with fire. They think they probably can control the explosion, but I don't think they can. And we know from the Bible that they won't. So,
right.
It's just really going to be, it's going to be really fascinating times. I truly believe, though, Paul, that we've turned a corner on these people. Okay. So I don't think this is the end. I mean, if it is, it is. But I just think people now Biden's not getting his stuff through.
No.
People are starting to push back. People are ignoring the civil disobedience showing up.
Yep.
And so I think people need to understand that you have a lot of power as a person.
Yep.
Look in New York. Only a few nurses quit a hospital and they have to shut it down.
Yep.
So people don't realize that, if only 8 or 10% of the nurses in any of these hospitals in California decide not to comply and they quit or they get fired, well, those hospitals are basically out of business.
Yep.
Because you can't take the people.
Can't replace them.
There's a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of teachers.
Yes.
There's a shortage of every skilled position out there. And so they're playing with fire. And Israelis yesterday, the health was talking to the interior minister and basically said, hey, this whole thing we're doing is not health. It's basically coercion and incentive. So
right. You're forcing people and it's not even working. And the numbers are not, it's just not working. So at some point, people are going to say, look, you can't just keep hammering me and keeping me down. For instance, threatening people's ability to travel by air. I was just saying this when I flew out here to California. I said, guys, I'm just not sure if they'll let us fly back. We might keep that rent-a-car we have and just take off, and then say, oops, sorry, we'll turn it in when we get where we're going. I don't know. I really don't know, because every day there's some new mandate or some new change in some proclamation or some kind of executive order.
And it's not just today. I'm more worried about tomorrow than I am today. Because once they get set a precedent that they can get consensus behind, they're just going to drive trucks through it. It'll be Chinese social credit. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, but that's kind of where we are, Paul. To me, this is opportunities. We've had our best trading in the last 6 weeks because we saw this coming, and you can see the seasons, right? The figs start picking them, and when we come out of this fall season, we're going to have this inflation coming in. And this is the wrong time for oil to be going up. Okay, so
in the winter, it's the worst time ever. That's going to cripple. Yeah. Heat's going to be shut off in apartments in different urban cities and different places in rural areas. That's coming. People will not be able to pay the heat bills. They're going to be screaming. Plus, you just shut off all the unemployment. Now, folks got to figure out how they go back to work, and they haven't worked for 2 years. Some of them won't go back. There's a disaster coming here among the populace, and they're going to rise up against this. They will. And they can't. But here's the good news. The good news is this. For those that have been staying on top of things, for those that have been putting their trust in the Lord, and those that are working at it, if they come to your website at tradegeniusacademy.com, that's www.tradegeniusacademy.com. You should go there, get a hold of Bob, get into the system, learn ways to become in control of your own destiny. Isn't that so? I say that to people. I don't care what it is. If you want to have a lemonade stand, do whatever it is. Be in control of your own destiny, because you can't trust the system. You have to be in control of your own destiny. Is that right, Bob?
Yeah, your own financial destiny. I agree.
Right.
And look, you have to be a Berean. You need to not consume what's being given to you. You have to do your own research. But the nice thing about the stock market, it's all math. And so the big money can't hide. And so, if they're buying, you see the footprints, and we just follow along. We call ourselves seagulls. We see the bait ball coming to the surface. We didn't make that bait ball come up. We just feed.
Yeah.
And then we move on and we wait for the next bait ball. That's all you have to do. I don't have to be smarter than the market. I just have to be smart enough to recognize that somebody smarter than me and bigger than me is making something happen, and I just need to follow it.
Yep.
And that's all you need to do. And we put specials together, Paul. So 65% off any of our bundles. Check us out. What we charge for the service is nothing compared to what you get out of it. If you read these testimonials, we've made people 10 years worth of our service in 2 or 3 trades. So we price our services very, very modestly in terms of the value you get out of this. And these are people that probably haven't even traded before, being able to start making money. People who've been trading wrong for a long time that we're helping them get on the right side of things. So it's a really good system. Like I said, it's not crazy. You're not going to be doing crazy day trades and stuff like that. But there's tremendous opportunities right now. And the crazier the market gets, the more money that is potentially available to you, because all we really ask for is for the market to swing. If you're an investor, you want to just to grind. But if you're a trader, you don't mind this volatility, because you can make a lot more money in a shorter period of time by catching these quick waves. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Folks, Bob Kudla, TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Check it out. Go to his website. Get into the program, and get in control of your own economic destiny. And then the Lord will direct you. You'll be at the right place at the right time. The Bible says the Lord will direct your path, okay, if you trust in the Lord with all your heart. So, Bob, I appreciate it again today. Keep going. Keep going.